We stand at a crossroads. Around the world, women's rights are under attack.
I am Saturn the Offender, and this will be a masterpiece.
What we once considered progress now feels fragile, reversible. It's a stark reminder that the fight for equality is far from over. From the halls of power to our own communities, women are facing a backlash. This is not a time for complacency.
They are never satisfied. Women many years ago could not vote, hold office, have credit cards, enjoy sexual freedom, own land, or hold certain jobs. Ask yourself why? Oppression is what the normies tell you. Good sense is what our wise fathers believed.
It is a time to rise, to resist, to reclaim the ground we've lost. We must remember the rights we enjoy today were hard-won.
Only with the help of simps will you get your so-called perversion. Woman can't fight for anything without the help of simps and white knights.
They were earned through the courage and sacrifice of generations before us. We cannot, we must not, let their struggles be in vain.
Bunch of bullshit. Go start your own country without men. I vote for a change time to remove women's rights. I am Saturn the Offender.
The erosion of women's rights is not just a statistic, it's a lived reality. It affects women from all walks of life in every corner of the globe.
Mitch, shut the F up. Reason one woman hold the eggs of life and allow our species to continue. Again, their purpose to procreate supersedes all else.
It limits our choices, our opportunities, our very freedom. The time to act is now.
There is no acting or rising up without the help of men. We must challenge the status quo of normies. Reason 2 women's unchecked behavior is naturally self-destructive to society without checks. Sexual freedom, financial freedom, and maternal leadership all lead to doom.
We must hold our leaders accountable. We must stand together in solidarity and demand a better future for ourselves, for our daughters, and for all women.
What kind of crap is this? The question is, do you want responsibility or no accountability? You can't have both. Reason 3.
Woman's right over the last few hundred years has been nothing but disastrous. Statistics, history, and reason all show this.
We cannot afford to be silent. We cannot afford to be complacent. The future of women's rights depends on the actions we take today.
Yes, we want you to shut the F up. Close your mouth, it's the best thing for you and for us.
I am Saturn the Offender, and I hope you're triggered.
Let our voices be heard loud and clear in defense of equality, in pursuit of justice, and in the unwavering belief that a better world is possible. We must remember the words of the great Audre Lorde, "Your silence will not protect you. It is time to speak up."
That's all they can do is run their mouths. Simp Wolf Whistle calling all simps.
It is time for an awakening.
The fight for women's rights is not an abstract concept.
It's a dream. It's a wish. It's fantasy, lies, corruption.
It is about real lives, real stories, real consequences. The case of Manahel Al-Otaibi, a Saudi women's rights activist.
She dared to raise her voice, to advocate for equality in a society that often silences women. Her reward? Imprisonment followed by enforced disappearance.
Sounds like someone put this woman in her place. Women are not meant to lead. Nature teaches us this. Good for the Saudis. Too bad we didn't do the same. There would be no socialism, no womanism, no sex revolution, no single mother epidemic.
Her story is a stark reminder of the price of silence, the human cost of indifference. Manahel is not alone. Around the world, women who dare to challenge the status quo, to demand their rights, are met with intimidation, with harassment, with violence.
Yes, that's right, Mitch. Act like a man and get treated like one. It's called equal rights, hypocrites.
Their stories are a testament to their courage, but also a chilling reminder of the work that still needs to be done. The rollback of reproductive rights in the United States is another example of the real-world consequences of this backsliding.
I'm getting to the main point about what rights women should lose. But first, check my other video about women's rights. I'm Saturn the Offender. Boo-ha-wah!
The overturning of Roe v. Wade, a landmark decision that once protected a woman's right to choose, has had a devastating impact on women across the country. Access to safe and legal abortion is no longer a guaranteed right.
Whoa! Glad they overturned that. By the way, the states decide, not the federal government. Panani. Under control. Its needs are lock and key. The women's womb affects the mother, the child, the father, and society. Man tries to control animal populations. What is the difference here?
It is a privilege, increasingly out of reach for many, particularly those from marginalized communities. This is not just about healthcare. It's about control, about limiting women's autonomy over their own bodies, their own futures.
Go live in a blue state, Mitch. You have the so-called rights, but no, here you are mitching about more.
These stories are not isolated incidents. They are part of a larger pattern, a global trend of shrinking spaces for women's rights.
Blah, blah, blah. Use your reason. Why does common sense seem to go the way of the dinosaur? Why are they more Pookie spawns, carjackers, single mothers, divorces, lawsuits, and consistent fussing about the gap wage?
It's time for an awakening. I'm Saturn the Offender.
The erosion of women's rights is not confined to one country or continent. It is a global threat, fueled by a toxic mix of patriarchy, conservatism, and authoritarianism.
And this is why we need to remove so-called women's rights. We need more patriarchy, conservatism, and authoritarianism. Use your reason and logic. Women have more now than ever and still complain. Complete ducking, bullshit.
It's time for an awakening. 1. No voting. Most Punanis vote with their feelings and entice weak men to do the same too. No authority without a man present. 3. No divorce, unless adultery can be proven.
Shall we continue?
4. No public schools or colleges for women. These institutions create 304 SE, streetwalkers, single mothers, and entitled brats.
5. Mandatory home care for children by their mother under the age of 5, and daughters to be trained by the mother and grandmother to serve their husband and children. 6. No public showing of skin, but the face and hands can be shown. No tight clothing or enticing wear in public. I am Saturn the Offender. Simps and womanists beware. 7.
Mandatory servant education for all women inside and outside the home. 8. No purchases by women without the approval of their husband, father, brother, or cousin. Only few exceptions allowed.
9. Marriages must be approved by father and mother if she is the wife of one man with no divorces. Teenage women to be married to older men.
10. If a woman mouths off to a man, she is open to be treated like a man and subject to verbal ridicule or physical action. Same goes for physical action against a man. 11. Mandatory punishment for adulterous women and men. Check out my video about younger women being married. You will see why these rules make sense.
Thought I was joking, weren't you? I am Saturn the Offender. My next video, I will nuke the kitchen with the topic of fathers passing their teenage daughters to older men for marriage. Are you ready? I am Saturn the Offender. Boo wah wah!
This is the way we combat society's problems. We start with putting Punani under control again. It's time for an awakening. Bonus! I'm Saturn the Offender. Around the world, men are rising up, raising their voices, demanding change. We want women to be loved, protected and cared for, especially in their old age. So-called authoritarianism protects woman from doctrines of deception and the Pookie, Chad, Tyrone archetypes who wants nothing but sensual pleasure. And the greedy corpos who want to exploit women for their money, labor, consumerism and punanis. Womanism and so-called human rights only empowers women to make choices without fear of consequences. That is what freedom of choice is, right? Yes, you can choose, but yes, you are responsible. Womanists and simps do not want accountability. While making this video, I came across the Orange Man being slandered. The Orange Man is the biggest white knight and simp, puts more punanis in power, and even white knighted with his transformer law banning biomen from women's sports. You Democrats really need to rethink your beliefs. Oh, and by the way, states hold reproduction laws, not the federal government, so go move to a blue state if you live in a red one, fool. Women hold the steps to procreation, and that's why they need to be under lock and key. Not out here running the streets on a dick quest with Chad, Tyrone, Pookie, or Enrique. The strong and independent type produce weak and emotional men who in turn statistically turn up society. That's why we need the boot of the patriarchy. Black men in America are an example of this. Before the 60s, black families were strong until socialism, welfare, womenism and racism came along. All lies to destroy the family and give power to corrupt corpos. Think about it. Use your reason. Look around you, especially at blue states and cities. We want women to be loved and cared for, not alone in their older years, not being a cat lady or dog queen. Happy and healthy with children and grandchildren, this is the Creator's will or evolution's purpose. Both teachings support women in a servitude role. One by command and example, the other by trial and error. The patriarchy wants to protect women from themselves and protect their offspring. From the thirsty man with no dick discipline, from producing bastard children, from physical violence when not required, from grape, from the desperate stepdaddy, from homelessness, from single motherism and more.
Open your eyes.
See what destruction weak men and liberated women brought to the West. You see it all around you. It's a cycle until the barbarian rises again. The West is doomed if they continue on this path of foolishness. Maybe not now, or even in 100 years, but it will happen. It happened before.
The time for an awakening is right now.
It's time for a change. I'm Saturn the Offender.